Joining me now live from Jerusalem is Shاina, the communication advisor for the Norwegian Refugee Council. Thank you for coming back. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Because here's a little more on that IDF plan to protect civilians ahead of any ground offensive on Rafah. We should note this again. More than 1 million Palestinians fled there because they were told to go there by the Israeli military in the first place. Listen to this.
1.3 million, a significant amount of them will go to a safer zone, and we have to create those conditions, to set those conditions of food, humanitarian aid, medicine, hospitals, field hospitals. So there will be conditions for the population if we act.
If the Israeli government sticks to its own deadline here for a start of the Rafah offensive, then what, there's 11 or 12 days to get all of that done? Is that a realistic timeline? Is that even possible?
You know, I don't think it's possible. And I think what's most telling about the statement that you aired is not that they said that they would be going to a safe zone. He said it would be a safer zone. And that's what's been happening throughout all the last 4.5 months plus of Palestinians being forced to flee from place to place, not seeking safety, but seeking a safer place, because there simply is no safe place inside of Gaza, and there hasn't been a single safe place inside of Gaza since February 7th. It's important that the Israelis remember their obligations under international humanitarian law as the occupying power to provide for the basic needs of the civilian population in Gaza, and that in order for an evacuation to be lawful, they need to allow for safe passage for people to get to a safe place. They need to be provided for in that safe place and be guaranteed of their safety, and they need guarantees of their ability to return home once hostilities have ended. Since October 7th or October 13th, when Israel issued its first so-called evacuation order, Palestinians have not been evacuated. This has not been an evacuation. It's been a forcible transfer, a grave violation under international humanitarian law. And we're concerned that with this planned Rafah offensive, we will see even more forcible transfer than we've seen over the last 4.5 months, and potentially mass deportation into Egypt.
This comes also amid a critical shortage of food and water and other basic supplies. Prices in Gaza have skyrocketed, and Israel has actually been accused of making a bad situation worse by preventing the amount of aid which is being allowed into Gaza. Inspections of aid convoys have been slow. There's also a problem with distribution. I want you to listen again to the chief IDF spokesperson responding to those allegations. Here he is.
We're doing it every day, an assessment how to get better with international organization to make sure that food will reach the north, the south, and other areas. It's hard to create those conditions because of the distribution problem, but we're working on it.
Is that your experience? Has the Norwegian Refugee Council been working closely with the IDF to make this happen?
Well, the reality is that it's not about struggle. The struggles with distribution are because of Israeli targeting of convoys and the unreliability of a deconfliction system. Humanitarians cannot operate while there are ongoing hostilities. We cannot operate when we are not able to assure our staff and the people working with us of their safety when they're going to execute distributions. On top of that, the Israelis multiple times targeted the Palestinian police. These are civil servants who are there protecting aid convoys and ensuring that there was some degree of maintenance of civil order. And since the targeting of those police officers and their unwillingness to accompany aid convoys, we've seen the deterioration of conditions on the ground even further, where it's become increasingly unsafe. Were Israel to, first of all, allow for a massive scaling up of the aid going in and remove its onerous screening processes, the level of desperation in Gaza would reduce. And on top of that, we need guarantees that when we're going from place to place, that our staff will be safe and the people seeking aid will also be safe when heading to distribution points. That hasn't been happening, and that's one of the main reasons that the situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate 4.5 months in.
So already this week, Jordan, Egypt, the UAE, Qatar and France carried out airdrops of emergency aid over Gaza. The US is now considering airdrops as well. It's not the best or most efficient way of delivering help, but it sort of goes in the category of better than nothing. What does it say, though, about the current crisis in Gaza that airdrops are now one of the few options left to get help to the people who need it?
I think the first thing it symbolizes is that the deconfliction system just simply isn't working, and that aid cannot be safely distributed on ground in Gaza, which is ridiculous. This is the way that aid should be getting in. It's incredibly expensive, inefficient to be doing airdrops. There's limitations in the amount of goods that can be dropped. And Israel also controls the skies. What we know is that the Kerem Shalom crossing in southern, that enters into southern Gaza, has the capacity to allow hundreds of more trucks in per day than we're seeing. Our Secretary General Jan Egeland was just in Gaza, and he sent us video of the convoys of trucks just parked and waiting to enter Gaza through the south that are just stuck in the Sinai. We know that there's aid on the other side of the border. We need to be able to get that in, and we need guarantees that we can move around Gaza to access places where all people are who are in need, which is everywhere, in order to get aid to them.
Shana there in Jerusalem, thank you. We really appreciate your time.